Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to talk about the property market in Australia. How the investors can leverage the power or the tool of property and can build their portfolio accordingly. It's very weird that we had never been taught since our childhood how to build money. Whenever we talk about the word money, it becomes a taboo as per our Indian mindset, isn't it? Even in the school, since our childhood, it has been told to us to study, get a graduation, and then get a good paying salaried job, and then retire on the provident fund that we get. No one cared to let us know how to become a wealthy and to retire very securely with the wealth in your bank account. In this world, we have always two kind of people whom we meet. The first are the rich and the other is the wealthy. There is a difference that we need to understand between being rich and being wealthy. Rich are those people who have lot of money and can someone who has high income or have lot of assets or even both. But the people who are wealthy are the one who have a lot of assets and that automatically generates them the income that they need. And in order to have those kind of assets, that can be anything from property to stocks or even businesses. In very clear words, rich is more in present where it is measured in how much you earn from your income or wealth or assets, whereas the wealthy is measured by the ability to generate more income using the assets and reducing the liabilities over the time. Wealthy is a journey that takes its own time and provides you with a more secure future. In Australia, there are many ways how you can become rich and wealthy together. We will explore those areas a bit today. I just had started my journey in that area as well, and I will share my tips and tricks that you can use to help yourself become wealthy with time. It takes its own time to become wealthy. It's a journey that you have to go on, and it's a painful journey. It cannot happen overnight. And it takes its own time that we need to deal with patience, and our hard work will pay off later. Here in Australia, you can buy a land and then build a house or can directly buy an established house. We will talk about both and I will also be letting you know of my thoughts on which approach is much better and is powerful. When to use which strategy is very important when you deal with such kind of investment ideas. Now when it comes to being wealthy, it is very true that there are no such thing as the best strategy and each strategy can play out very well on how you actually work on it with full commitment and build your empire on top of it. In Australia, when we build a house or we buy a house, below are the expenses we need to incur on top of the cost of the house. They are deposit, stamp duty, conveyancing fees, loan application fees, the loan establishment fees, title insurance, and home inspection, property survey, and finally the moving costs. These are some of the expenses we need to be ensuring that we have the fund in order to proceed further and buy a house. It might sound a bit complicated, but it is not actually, and I will just take you through of the same. Let's start with the deposit. In Australia, in order to buy a good house or to build a new house, you need to have at least 10 to 20% of the purchase price. So say for example, if the purchase price is $500,000, then it's always good if you have $100,000 in cash in your account that you need to pay as part of your deposit. Now that 20% might be the whole 100,000 that goes towards the purchasing cost of the property, or it can also include other costs like for example your stamp duty, loan amounts, and what other third party expenses that comes along with it, which we will discuss in this video a bit later on. But it can be also more or less depending on your lender. The lender will check and review your credit score, and if they find your serviceability of the loan to be good, then they can offer you with good deals including lower interest rates and lower deposits. Lower deposits means adding another expense, and that is LMI, that is called lender's mortgage insurance, which is a one-off price on top of the deposit amount you get charged by the lender if paying less than the 20% deposit. It protects the lender if you default on your loan, meaning that the lender will be repaying if you are unable to make your payments. The next expense comes is the stamp duty. This is a tax that is paid to the government when you buy a property. The amount of the stamp duty you pay depends on the value of the property and on your state of residence. There are exemptions too, and it depends on state to state. One of the exemptions is that if you are a first home owner, then you will get a FOG, which is again first home owner grant. That will help reduce your stamp duty, as the limit currently in Victoria, because I stay in Victoria, so I will be talking more specific to Victoria, is $750,000. The first home buyers are eligible for a full stamp duty exemption on the purchase of an established home value up to $650,000 or a concessional rate on homes valued between $650,000 to $700,000. For construction homes, the exemption applies to the purchase of land valued up to $400,000 or a concessional rate on land valued between $400,000 to $450,000. In the video above, you can definitely see and do a bit of a calculation yourself. I will share this link in the description below so that you can play around with it. This is a bit confusing as well when we deal such kind of grants and understand this FOG better. Let's take an example and we will talk about Victoria. Like I said, I stay in Victoria, so I will share more information on Victoria, and if you need more information on other states, just to let me know in the comment section and I will be happy to get all those details and share it with you as well. So from the chart you can see, if the property value is between $25,000 to $130,000, then the stamp duty you have to pay will be $350 plus 2.4% of every dollar over $25,000. Same thing, if your property comes under $130K to $960,000, then in that case you have to pay $2,870 plus 6% for every dollar over $130,000. Please note that these rates are subject to change. It is always best to check with your state government for the most up-to-date information. The next expense that comes into picture is the conveyancing fee. These are the legal fees that are associated with the buying of a property. They cover the cost of preparing the paperwork and registering the property in your name. It is like working with the right knowledgeable lawyers who will go through the contract and understand the implications of the same and let you know of any issues that might have occurred with the property that you may or you might not be aware of. They take good care of that part, and usually a one-off payment have to be done between $1,000 to 5,000 Australian dollars depending on the type of conveyancer. Loan application fee is another such expense that comes into factor, and these are the fees that your lender charges for processing your loan application. The bank ensures that they charge some application fee which is standard across all the banks within Australia, and that can differ with the amount of loan you are taking, ranging between 200 to 700 Australian dollars, and it's an one-off payment again. Same thing goes with the loan establishment fee as well, which is paid on your behalf to the financial broker or to the loan lender. So many a times all these amounts can be also reduced if you go via a proper financial broker. If you have a good experienced financial broker, he or she can use his or her influence to tone down those kind of expenses that you just saw over here. The next one will be the title insurance. This is insurance that protects you against any kind of title defects that may exist on the property. Next comes the home inspection, and this is a non-negotiable expense that you should pay for. Many people do always recommend that don't go for this, and you can definitely save some money if you don't do this, but I will highly recommend that you always go for it and do not negotiate in that. A home inspector will look for any kind of structural or mechanical defects in the property. This is a very important thing we should all do and pay for, as this helps us to avoid any kind of future issues that might come with the house with each year it depreciates. And the inspector ensures and check if the house we are building are the best and could be livable. Like I said, please do not sacrifice this activity by saving the expense. Property surveyor. This is an optional expense, but it is a good idea to get one of it if you are buying an older property or in a more flood prone area. the final expense will be the moving cost. These costs will vary depending on how much you need to move and how far you are moving as well, sometimes interstate or within the state as well. The above all costs are very similar if you are building a house from scratch or buying an established property. Now let's talk about the second option first, that is buying an established house. This strategy is used by many and had proved to be a more fruitful one, but for this you need a lot of capital in hand so that you can purchase the house directly and either for your own or for the investment. When you buy an established property, then you can immediately stay in or put the house on rent that will generate the income for you. The rental income will help reduce your EMI as the renter will now indirectly be paying off your EMI for that house. Once you have that house on the market for the renters, and if the demand is high, then they can also bid for higher rents and help you get the passive income. It depends on situation to situation on how much profit or loss you incur with the rental. Say in the current situation where the interest rate is 6 to 7% per annum, then a basic house of 600,000 Australian dollars might charge 3,000 Australian dollars per month roughly. Then in that case, the rental, if goes by 500 Australian dollars per week, then a total of 2,000 Australian dollars per month will be paid to you. Out of that, the expense that will be incurred will be the property manager who is handling and taking care of your property, who might charge you between 3 to 5% of the 2,000 Australian dollars, that is around $100 per month. So total, you will get around 1,900 Australian dollars per month in your account, and on top of it, you need to pay 1,100 Australian dollars towards the bank EMI, which is still okay to pay that amount. Why? I will let you know in a while. And this is where the whole strategy of how you make money comes into picture. What you are doing now is that even though you are paying a bit extra due to the higher interest rates, which is something you can easily claim during the tax deduction by showing the losses, which is something called as negative gearing properties. Anyways, we won't go into that for now as it is a different topic, and if you are interested more in that, then please do let me know in the comment section and we can discuss that further. Now let's come back to the strategy where we had purchased an established house and put it on rent. Now when we did that, what is the benefit that we get is the increase in your capital gain, and using a tool called equity that you can easily leverage it to buy more properties and put them either on rental or to stay. Now the term equity is the key to all the future investors who use good debt to build an empire of real estate investments. So basically how the equity works, let's talk about it and try to understand. So basically, banks or lenders are happy to lend you always the 80% of the property value. Say for example, you have a property of 500,000 Australian dollars and post 2 years, the property price have increased, and when you ask your bank or lender to do an evaluation of your house, then the evaluation of your house came up to 650,000 Australian dollars. So now you are sitting on a capital of 200,000 Australian dollars. Now bank will do a calculation as 80% of the 650,000 valuation, which is around $520,000, that will come as part of your capital gain. And again, these valuations might differ from location to location and from lender to lender as well. Now, while purchasing the house, you had a loan amount, and say if you had paid 20% deposit on the 500,000 Australian dollars house, then the amount you owe to bank is 400,000. And so now the bank did a calculation of $520,000 minus the $400,000, which is 120k Australian dollars in total. That is what your equity is currently. Now it is your choice whether to withdraw that equity amount and use that fund for more investment or just keep it as it is. Do remember, the equity when you withdraw from the bank, it is equal to a new home loan where you will be charged now the interest rate on the new 120,000 Australian dollars if you decide to pull that amount. All these are conditionals, again depending on your financial situations and other criteria before meeting the requirements. So now many investors in Australia, they take advantage of the equity as it's tax free, and although you pay the interest rate, but it is easily available for you that you can use to buy two or more property that you can rent it immediately and start getting rental income out of it. That's what we call here as passive income. There is a saying, right, where it says that if you wish to get that long term benefits, then you have to go through the short term pains. The short term pain might be the interest rate that will be charged against that equity that you have. Your debt might increase, but if you see, your capital growth also had increased by 6 to 7%, that happens currently in Australia overall, and that will subsidize your interest rates that you are paying. And with time you will see your investment portfolio is slowly and slowly growing more and more. I can also share you some tips and tricks that I use personally to reduce my debt. Now, by the strategy of buying an established house, the stress is always less when it comes to getting the right property in the right location that can multiply your assets quickly and take you in the journey of being a wealthy person in the future. The land value always appreciates, and if we place the properties at the right locations, then we can get very good returns out of it. I personally used this approach as it was at that point of time was more suitable for me as per my financial conditions at that point of time. But I strongly believe if given a chance for me to go back in the past and fix my investment plans, then I would go with the other strategy that we just discussed earlier, that is buying the already established house. I can see two possible advantages of building a house from scratch, and they are: you don't have to pay the deposit amount immediately, that is the 20%, which is $100,000 that we just talked about in the previous strategy. And with time you need to pay the deposit slowly and slowly, which could save you time to save enough amount for the house without the need to pay everything at one go. So the second advantage is that when you build the house, you are building a house of your own choice, where you ensure that you have your dream house and you wish to build it like the way you wished it to be looked like, and you don't have to sacrifice on anything that you might not get as a chance when you buy an established house. Now let's talk about it, and I will let you know why personally I don't like this approach. It is a bit time consuming, lot of catch-ups have to be done with the builders, lot of delays could happen due to weather, economic changes or policies that could affect the build. The materials if not available, then that can cause significant delays in the build. Normally a build time as per the contract is between 300 to 400 working days, but could differ from builder to builder. The steps what we usually used to follow in order to build a house from scratch are: first, choose a lot. The lot is the foundation of your home. So it is important to choose one that is in a very good location and that meets your needs and criteria. Consider the size of the lot, the zoning and the views. Choose a land that suits your house. You need to travel a lot to check the new developers who are developing new lands and making them available for the people to buy. The land sizes differ from as little as 200 square meter to a large size 700 square meter depending on the location and the councils. The cost varies too again, as in the current situation the cost is between $300,000 to 500,000 Australian dollars for a small 350 square meter land if bought in a good growing cities or councils. Here in Australia the lands are all measured with square meter. There are many factors to be considered before choosing a land. First one will be the land size. If the land size can actually accommodate the kind of house you wish to build, I always recommend check the houses first by going to display homes and getting to know about the house, how it fits into the land or not. If the land have any easements on the back or on the side, easements are the places where the councils do not allow the owners to build or do any kind of structural setup on the land, as the council might use those portion of the land to set up any gas pipelines, water pipelines, sewage pipeline or any public resources under that land. If the council finds any structure, then you will be penalized for the same and have to remove the structure at your own expenses. please do ensure to check whether the land is of regular or irregular size, and all these factors get considered when you build your own dream home. The next step will be to go and choose a builder or a construction company. This is a very critical decision as the builder will be the responsible for the overall construction of your home. Do your research very thoroughly and get the quotes from different builders before making a decision. In the recent times, some of the most reputed builders like Porter Davis, Lloyd Groups, and most recently Metricon and a few more have shown slowing down. Even few of the builders like Porter Davis and Lloyd Group had actually gone bankrupt. This could affect a lot mentally, financially, and to the family who are currently in the process of building a house. The issue is many builders who went rogue recently had left unfinished projects, and many owners are in dilemma whether they are still paying the EMI but the house is left unfinished. Also, with the good builders, the process of completion takes more time depending on various situations, either material shortage or skills trades shortage, or even with the weather as well. Get the necessary permits is the next one. Now, getting the necessary permits can be a bit complex and tedious work, so it's important to start it early. This can be something passed on to the builders who can do it on your behalf and they charge you an amount for the same. Finalize the plans. Again, this step can also be done on behalf of you by the builders and they will charge you an amount for the same. Start the construction. Now, once the builders get the necessary plans approved and the permits approved, they can start the construction. This is the most exciting part. The construction process can take several months, so we have to be very patient. While the construction takes place, it's again your responsibility to check with the supervisor and get an update, and also I will highly recommend to do regular inspection if possible by yourself and hire a private building inspector who can also do the same on your behalf for each stage of the house. The reports that get submitted by the private inspector related to any flaws or issues found can be sent back to the builders asking them to fix those building defects, and they will do that depending on how critical those issues could be. Now comes the next part, which is the inspection of the house. Once the construction is complete, you will need to have the home inspected by a qualified professional. This will ensure that the house is built to the code and to the standards to live in safely. This will be the time when the house is almost completed and you are personally doing a final inspection of the house and sharing your feedback on any issues you find, as the build can be rectified it immediately or could be fixed post getting the house, as they have 6 months to carry out any fixes done post the handover. And now comes the final stage, that is to move in. After all your hard work and patience, it's time to move into your new home. So, congratulations. So the expenses that you will be paying for the above if you are building a house from the scratch are the land, builder, conveyancer, lender, application and the loan fees, monthly installments that you have to pay till the time the house is completely ready and you start to move in. You will be paying the council rates each quarter till the time the house is also ready. Once the house is ready, you need to pay for the fence, driveway and landscape in order to complete the whole infrastructure, and you are now all good to start staying in that house. Like I said, the only advantage of having a house built from scratch is that you don't have to pay the whole 20% deposit at one go. Rather, you can divide that into different installments. So it's not basically the installments, but it's the way of how they are being charged. So say for example, when you are planning to do a house by yourself, you go and select a land. In order to select a land, they will let you know that when the land will be ready for you to start the construction. So let's take an example. So today, that is in July or August 2023, you go to a developer, you tell them that I like this land and I would like to have this land purchased. Then what they will say that alright, the land is not ready yet, but they can take an amount from you and book that land under your name. So they will take at least 5% of the purchasing amount of that land. So say for example, if the land is for $100,000, then at that point of time you have to pay $5,000 from your pocket and you book that land for yourself. Now once the land is titled, that is, say for example next year July, once the land is ready and it is getting ready for the title, they will ask you to pay the remainder of the 15% of the amount of that land, and that 15% you can pay off at that point of time. Now you have already had the loans and everything pre-approved, so that it will be easy for you to go ahead and complete the titles, and the same goes with the construction as well. So initially you might have to pay $3,000 to $5,000 to book the construction cost and the house plans. The next one will happen when you sign the contract, and the moment they will start the construction, they will charge you for each stage. So each stage they will let you know how much percentage of the amount of that construction fee or the construction cost will be charged to you, and you have to do the payments accordingly. From this video you might have got an idea of how much time it takes to complete the house from scratch. It might go from all the way 6 months to 1 year or even more, depending on the builder's timeline. Now with that, the advantage is that if you choose a land and house for $500,000 again, and that is only on the book, and say this year in 2023, then the cost is now reserved and no extras to be paid till the completion of the house. So automatically the appreciation too will time, and by the time your house will be ready and the bank do the evaluation, say again in 2024 July the house get completed, then in a year you might see a evaluation comes to $650,000 or more, depending on various factors and lenders. So automatically you will have $150,000 in hand profit the day you move into the house. The disadvantage of having a build of a house from scratch than buying an existing houses are cost. Building a house from scratch is more expensive than buying an existing house, even though if you are not paying everything at one go, but still it is a bit expensive if you factor other areas, like I said, the landscape, the fence, the concrete, the driveway, and any other things that you are planning to build at your own house, then that will be considered as well. Time. Building a house from scratch takes its own time. The construction process can take several months, so you will need to be having a lot of patience for it. And finally, the risk. There is always some risk involved in any construction project. There is a chance that the project could go over the budget, or there could be a lot of delays. Now, if you are considering building a house from scratch, it is important to weigh the pros and cons carefully. If you are willing to spend the time and money, building a house from scratch can be a rewarding experience. With this, I end this video, and I hope this will have given you an idea on how the property market currently looks like in Australia when it comes to building a house or to buy an existing house already. Now let's talk about the tips and tricks that I did mention about in the earlier stages of this video. Reduce your liabilities, that will improve your credit score, which will help you in the long term of getting good loan amounts and also some good interest rates as well. In this market, I will highly recommend that you always choose a good financial broker whom you can trust on, and he or she can take care of your financial situations. If possible, ask the lender to convert your EMI from monthly to fortnightly. You will see a significant drop in years or significant drop in the amount of your principal account once you convert from monthly to fortnightly. Always do remember, the house that we build or we buy and we stay in that house is a liability rather than an asset. So the house that you are currently living in will become a liability, so it is very clear that you need to reduce the debt of that house as soon as possible. Do your own research on the locations and find the right property, and once you purchase it, put it on rental and get the benefits of it. Always aim for the long-term growth rather than on the short-term benefit. If possible, always hold on to the property as long as you can, and definitely it will show you the rewards out of it. Now comes the final advice, and my advice to you is that to please create an end goal. Once you have that end goal created, then you can create small milestones in order to achieve that, and finally you will be rewarded with that end goal that you always has vision for. Commit to that goals and milestones, and I'm pretty sure you will be able to achieve what you always wanted to have. All the best for your future endeavors. Till we meet next time, take care and goodbye.